I'm Commander Shepard, and the Unnamed Games podcast is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. Shepard out.
Hello, people of the internet. I am Craig, I am me, I am here. Hello and welcome. And with me this week we have, to my left, Mr. Alan Longfangs Howlett. Hi, mate. You alright?
Good evening, my fine fettled friend. I am absolutely fabulous. How are you?
Oh, super duper. And just below we have a Mr. Speed Freak Phil. How are you, mate?
Look at that. Made it up to third position in the intro. Only because Ratley's off this week, of course.
Why is that so important?
And it's still
to
technically
you?
last.
Every time you do this, Phil, right? Every week you've been on, you go, oh, I'm last. I'm always last. Do you know what happens? I end up being last. Do you hear me complaining about it? No.
Yeah, but you're not last, otherwise you'd be complaining.
Just keep it in your mind,
As
Phil.
you've just pointed out.
Save the best till last. Alright?
Okay. Keep telling
That's all
yourself
it
that.
is. It's all it
Saves
is,
the
alright?
best till last. He's not lying to keep me quiet. Saves the best
Just
till
don't,
last.
we just don't like you.
Cool. Well, as you probably have noticed, we are one short again this week. So we have Mr. Ratley. He is busy, otherwise engaged with some work commitments, so he's not with us. He's probably not going to be with us next week either. But you have the best three anyway. So we'll just don't tell Ratley we said that. Okay. Just keep it under your hats. You two
This
boys.
is where we sort of wink.
Yeah.
It's like, he's my yin
The
to
best
my
three.
yang.
Yeah.
There won't be a counterpoint to any of my arguments this week because Chris
Yeah.
isn't here.
Yeah, that's it. You see, our points will now go on for 25 minutes rather than 50 minutes. So, it's like... no.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a great point, Alan. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So this week we're going to do the usual. We'll go through, we'll find out what everyone's been up to, have a bit of chat about some games and some things we've been watching and stuff. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Grand Theft Auto 6, because there was a tweet came out, but we'll get to that later. So, of course, I'm going to buck the trend this week. And first of all, I'm going to go around, because he always complains about being last. I'm going to
Don't
go
do
to...
it.
See, I knew it. See?
No, I'm not
gonna be
really.
last.
I'm not really. Alan, what have you been up to, mate?
Also, to be fair, if he was to buck the trend, he'd have gone first himself.
Well, to be fair, yeah.
He does technically go last in the what have you been up to.
That's a good point, actually.
That is a very good point. So, Craig, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, nothing really. No, I haven't really. No, I'm actually...
It's been a quiet week.
That backfired, didn't it?
No, I've been up to play. Please go first, Alan. Tell us what you've been up to, and then we'll
All right.
go
Well,
from there.
I'll tell you. I'll start off with what I've been watching. Okay. So I finished watching Jack Reacher. I think I talked about that last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the whole series. I think it was 8 episodes in total. So it wasn't a long.
I think it was
watch.
8. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it was
binge.
8, yeah.
I was really pleased. It was really good. I mean, it was kind of like watching a Jack Reacher movie stretched over nearly 7 or 8 hours. But I never felt like it was slow or that there was any. I was bored with what was happening. It was, and there was some really, as I said last week, the season 4 opening part with the trunk Tetris. But the end episode, the obviously the big action finale was really well done. Really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward and hoping that it gets signed up for a second series. I don't know whether it has.
I believe it has. I'm sure I saw a
so-
tweet saying that it's been signed up for season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm all in for more because I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next season. Go Phil.
I was going to say, I sort of powered through that last week as well. I wasn't on last week's pod, so we didn't discuss it, but same kind of feelings as you. Like, it felt very true to the character. I was equally disturbed by the trunk car move and the Tetris comment.
Is it? I think is it the start of episode 4?
Episode.
Yeah.
4, yeah.
Car, trunk, legs. Enough said. Ugh.
It's the noise it makes when he... And he's like, it's okay, he was already dead when I did that. Oh yeah, that makes it so much better.
All right, Jack. You psycho.
Oh mate.
So I've also been watching the next 3 episodes of Critical Role, which is the adult animated D&D series from the Legend of Vox Machina on Prime, and that's just getting better and better, quite frankly. We've got the last drop next week of the last 3 episodes. 12
Is
in
it
total.
still super adult? Like, because I've not watched any of it yet. But...
There are adult references, yeah. I mean, I certainly wouldn't let your kids watch it. I mean, there are. I mean, there's a bit of bad language. It's got better in the first episode. I think they thought using the F word was big and clever, and it gets used about 30 times in the first like 20 minutes. And it's like, it's all right, guys. Yeah, we get it. It's adult. You can swear.
made your point.
You don't need to swear every single sentence. But they kind of calm down a little bit after that episode. And occasionally you get a few sexual references because Scanlan, one of the characters, the gnome bard, is a womanizer. So there is adult content in there, but I wouldn't say it was like, we're not talking full on Playboy gratuitous manga porn like Phil watches. I mean, tentacle porn. It's
Not all anime is hentai. Just so we're clear.
Well, it's like, I know this, Phil. I'm just saying that hentai is something that you told me before that you enjoy watching of a Friday
This is such a
evening.
character assassination.
this is absolute character. No point if we had that conversation. The only time that ever come up when it turned out the only thing Ratley had ever watched was that Legend of the Overfiend,
You're in
and
denial.
he'd assumed.
Let's,
all
you know
anime
what?
was the
Let's
same.
let's move away from this. Is horrible.
Well, it was
Anyway,
My only comment at that point is I'm very much looking forward to watching this, but
Yeah.
particularly with anime, I really hate waiting for the next episode because they're only like 20 minutes. So
Yeah, this
I
is
was
really
waiting
good.
for the whole.
All
Oh, we had a little
hentai
message
anime.
here
Yeah.
from Flammable Pete, but all hentai is
fingers are-
anime.
All thumbs are fingers, but not
But
all
I
fingers
really
are
like.
thumbs.
What does that even mean?
All
Anyway,
thumbs
moving
are
on.
fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Yeah, Phil. Yeah. You do you.
Moving
but,
on.
Yeah, I like the way that they've done this. So they're not like releasing an episode every week. I'm very much in these days. I said this before. There's part of me that's kind of wishes back to the olden days when you didn't have instant like drops of series, and it was an exciting thing when it was it's Friday. That means there's going to be a new episode of whatever I'm watching this.
Yeah.
At the moment, and it's really exciting. And then you watch it, and everybody else has watched it, and you talk about it the next day, and it's like that was a big cultural thing, and we don't get that anymore. Now we have the binge watch. But I think they've got a happy medium, the Legend of Vox Machina, because they're dropping 3 episodes over a 4-week period to make the 12. So you're still waiting, and you're not being able to watch it in one go, but at the same time you're not waiting 12 weeks to watch the series in entirety. So
It's also because they're dropping them 3 at a time. It's like they're dropping an hour's worth of TV watching. It'd be the same as if we were watching like Jack Reacher every week, where the episode is 45 minutes to an hour. I think it feels like that's the approach they've gone with, which is I like it actually. It's a nice
interesting.
change.
Yeah, I think the episode length is quite good, as you were just talking about there, because I'm just going to talk about the other thing I started watching this week, looking for something different. And I went onto Netflix and I've started watching a series called All of Us Are Dead.
Is that Korean?
Yeah, it's South Korean. And it is
I
basically...
was assuming it was South Korea. I don't think a lot comes out of North Korea in terms of entertainment. But I mean, maybe. I mean, I might be wrong.
I don't know,
we
maybe-
can't assume, Craig.
Exactly, we don't
know what they say about assuming.
Is financing. He could have paid for it. We don't know, but
Maybe.
anyway, it's a South Korean company that made it, and it's based in South Korea, and it is basically a zombie apocalypse story where Ground Zero is a high school, and it's kind of a mix of like a zombie movie series, but at the same time you have these school kids and the angst that goes with school kids. Not so keen on that side of it. Seems a bit silly sometimes when you're. This is what I was going to say. I don't know. It's maybe a cultural thing, but for me, watching it, sometimes the tone doesn't always sit with me. I love the zombies for a start. They're absolutely fantastic. The way that they've done them, really fantastic. And they certainly don't hold back on the face chewing and everything else. It's quite graphically violent.
What you want?
Yeah, it's a zombie film, right? So, or zombie
Like
series,
a
so-
battle royale.
Exactly. It's about
Similar kind of
gratuitous
theme.
blood and guts, and there's blood everywhere. It's people are falling over it, and it's really really well done. But they do seem to spend an inordinate amount of time either making light of the situation or worrying about their interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
I mean. They've dwindled down from about 12 kids in a classroom to about 8 because their best friends have died, and they're cracking jokes about the fact that he's had to hug him as they're falling out of the window so that they don't fall to their death and get eaten by zombies. And it just fit the tone to me, just like. But I know that's kind of region.
I think a lot of it as well.
It's just
Did you watch that? You watched Squid Game, didn't you?
No, I haven't watched that one.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, you should do. It's
I
absolutely
think
fantastic.
Train to Busan is probably a more closer reference. If anybody.
Well, no,
watched that.
I'm not saying in terms of reference to the film
Yeah.
as such. I'm saying more of a cultural type thing. So, kind of the localization and the translation from Korean into English. I think there was a lot around that because that was so popular. It sort of got into more of the mainstream media, but there was a lot of reports around it, how a lot of the things had been translated
Misconstrued.
incorrectly or
Yeah.
didn't quite get the right tone. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
that can be when the languages are so different. It is very difficult to have a one-to-one translation on something. There isn't, effectively a string of words that means the same thing in a different language.
Yeah,
Does that make
they
sense?
they say the sentences are said in like a different order.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just as simple as like a cultural thing where they put the surname before the first name. Now that's
Yeah.
easy enough to
And I
switch
totally
around
agree,
into
and I think
English,
that
but
probably contributes
the whole
to some
structure
of
of their
that.
sentences,
Yeah.
it very much where they've made light of a situation, it may be that it's just the tone is misplaced in the way the sentence is written, and it's not meant to be a joke.
But also, there is this. It was definitely meant as a joke. But there are also things where obviously, different cultures tell stories in a different way. That's why watching manga and stuff like that, Phil, you're experiencing a story told in a fundamentally different way from Western stories, and that's probably why it appeals to a lot of people. And again, there are some things in there that don't always hit the mark with me. I don't want to sort of spoil it for anybody, but there's one character, one of the lead characters, and his mum is basically obsessed with him. And she names her a chicken restaurant after him and everything else. And the outbreak happens, and she jumps on her moped and basically fights her way across the entire city over a space of like 2 episodes, like crashing twice, almost dying multiple times, getting eaten, massive things. Makes it to the school, and then immediately calls out to a person she recognised on the field and gets eaten. And it's almost like, why were we following her for 2 episodes if all she was going to do is go there and die? It was like there was no payoff. It was just the writing is just done differently. It's like
It's a
but
cultural shock and awe approach. The way that again you see that a lot in anime as well. Like you will follow somebody. There's a particular. What's the one I watched quite recently? Kame ga Kill is on Netflix, and I don't know how to explain this without spoiling it. But you follow a character throughout the entire, and you think this guy's it. He's the hero or she's the hero, and then something horrendous happens at the end. You're like, what the? And suddenly, like in one episode, the whole premise of the series changes, and when you look back, you're like, oh my god, I kind of see why that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad.
You guys are never going to watch it, so it doesn't ruin it for you.
I
But
mean, one of the things I was saying about the length of the episodes, with this particular series, the episodes are massively long. I think I've watched 3, and each of them have been over an hour long, which is really unusual. And there are like 10 or 11, 12 episodes. So there's a lot of story in there. And as I said, there's also a lot to enjoy. I'm picking when I'm talking about stuff like this and just saying, there's things that I'm like, oh, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. But overall, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a fantastic series. And as I say, the way that they've done the zombies and the everything else is so well done, and really give it a chance.
I might give that a shout. Yeah, I mean, for me, I've never really been a huge fan of foreign language films because sometimes the dubbing, I don't like the dubbing, and I used to find that subtitles used to, if something was shot really well, I used to find the distraction of kind of reading while you're trying to absorb the cinematography of something. I used to find that quite off-putting. But I watched a film called Parasite. I don't know if you guys have watched that.
That was very big. Like, was it last?
Yeah, I won. I don't know if it was like best director.
won
or
international
something
film
like that.
awards. Yeah,
Yeah. I think it won an Oscar
strictly-
and stuff. And
strictly out of its box that it was put into it.
It was. It's an absolutely brilliant film, and I watched that in. I'm sure it was Korean. That film. Yeah, I'm sure it was Korean. I watched it in Korean with subtitles. And it was such a good film, and it was so engaging about the characters. And yes, it was shot beautifully, but it was less of a kind of a spectacle, like an action movie or something. So it was very character focused, and that allowed me to really kind of get my head around it. And I enjoyed it so much that, I mean, I don't think I'd have even considered watching Squid Game if I hadn't have seen that before, because I'd have gone, I'm not going to like the dubbing.
Maybe I've made a mistake by watching the dubbed, and maybe I should go with subtitles, because I said this before about the movie Wreck. Have you seen the movie Wreck?
Yes, Portuguese, isn't it?
I think it was Spanish, but
maybe,
and the thing is that the first time I watched that, because I didn't understand what they were saying, I was reading what they were saying, it seemed much more genuine and much more real to me, because they could have been acting terribly for all I know, but because I didn't really understand the language, it seemed so much more sort of sincere and honest than it did. So maybe that's one thing with that. Maybe I need to change the subtitles in it.
That's a great film, Wreck.
Yeah.
Great
Again,
film.
And then they had to go and remake. Was it called Quarantine? I'm sorry, but it's just it lost a lot of its essence. It's not good.
I watched
so that's
pretty
what
much.
I've been watching.
Yeah, I was gonna say I watch pretty much all of my like foreign content with subtitles. Like when they do the dubs, it loses so much in translation. Also, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to find if the lip syncing is off, I find that really quite distracting as well, and that frustrates me a little bit.
Was it the old I Am Legend? I am your father.
Yeah, classic one. Yeah, I mean, it's even something simple as what did I watch that I didn't enjoy it that they do? Ong Bak, which is a martial arts movie.
Yeah.
You try and watch that with the subtitles. Fine, makes sense. Everything looks fine. You watch it with the dub, and it's like the guy has like a sentence that visually looks like it's about 2 seconds long, but he's still talking when he's into the next scene of the action. And you know all he's doing is kneeing people in the face for the entire movie.
Yeah, actually, with a martial arts movie, it doesn't really matter what the story is or how it's told.
No.
You don't care about the story because it's going to be rubbish. It's just the awesome kicking in the face things, isn't it? So,
Kung Fu K. Was it? What's that one with the Kung Fu? Oh, never mind. I've forgotten. But
You think about Kung Pao?
Kung Pao? Was it Kung Pao? No, it was
Enter
the
the
other
Fist.
one. Kung Fu Hustle.
Kung Fu Hustle.
Absolutely
Yeah, okay.
genius. That knife scene in the alleyway is possibly one of the funniest things I've ever watched in my entire life. Absolute genius. But they do that a lot in there as well, where they just completely randomly mess about. It's an absolutely fantastic movie. You should watch
Nice.
that.
Yeah, nice. Well, what have you been playing then, Al?
Right, what have we been playing? Well, a bit of Project Zomboid, maybe. Still, I believe I was just checking while I was supposed to be listening to Phil, and I wasn't. But 230 plus hours now, and I am not bored of it at all. That says a lot about the game.
When did that game come out, Alan?
220, yeah, the year 212. No, 2013, I believe. But it was in early access for an awful long time, and it still is.
How long have you been playing it for, Alan? A couple of weeks?
About a month and a half.
About a month and a half, yeah.
Is it that long?
Well, maybe I'm trying to let it stretch it out a bit. It's about a month.
I was just looking because I was looking at the math, and that's roughly 8 hours a day. Roughly.
Yeah,
Sounds about right.
That is a full-time job right there, playing Project Zomboid on top of your full-time job.
Yeah, well, you know.
Well played.
Things have been quiet. Things have been
Tip my
quiet.
hat to you. That's some commitment right there.
I love it. I unashamedly, absolutely love it, and it's I'm not getting bored of it in any way. It's right up my alley. It's a survival game.
Yeah.
It's what it is. I'm building a base, and I've not got bitten, and I absolutely love it.
I've just got this image right now because I'm assuming that when you're working, your chair has just turned 45 degrees to the left, and then you literally finish work and go. Just turn Project Zomboid on.
That's my lunch break. It's like straight away turn. But anyway, yeah. So I've been playing a lot of that, but I've also been playing some Dying Light 2, and I'm not going to go too much into detail because I know you've been playing that a lot more than I have, Craig.
Yeah.
So I'll let you.
You've
talk
not been
about
playing
that.
it enough, is what you've been doing.
Well, you know, I've been playing Project
Basically,
Zomboid.
that's what you
But
said.
anyway. But I just wanted to point out one thing that I thought was funny, and I noticed this the other day, and I'm not dissing the game, because I think the game, the more you get into it, the better and better it gets, right? And I know, you know, again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I was playing last night, and I'm going along, and there's this group of survivors sat on the rooftop, and I noticed that I can sit down with them. And I sit down with them, and I think, oh, that's really nice. I can sit with the survivors, I can interact with them. I love that extra level of interactivity. And they start asking me questions. I think, oh, that's really good. They start asking me questions. And you know what Aiden does? He sits there and says nothing.
Really?
He ignores them. They go,
Oh, wow.
Aiden, you've been out and about, haven't you? How's things outside of the walls? Oh, Aiden, I heard that there was trouble over there by the district. Did you see anything?
He's just practicing his evil eyes look.
And it's like they went to the effort to give him a voice.
To
They
script
went
it,
to
yeah.
the effort to give you the opportunity to interact with random NPCs. Yeah. They gave them dialogue, and then you just sit there and don't say anything. And it's
Hang
like,
on a
oh
sec.
my god.
No, we're missing an opportunity here, boys. We can take this on board with the podcast.
Yeah.
For example, ask me a question, Craig.
I'd rather not, Phil, to be honest. So that.
So,
Sorry, mate, that was harsh.
I'll do it. So, Phil, how is it outside?
See, this plays brilliantly, particularly for our audio listeners. Just so you know, Phil is now looking around the room and taking a sip of his drink. This is like theatre gold. You should watch it next time.
It is.
It's amazing.
Well done, you. Well done.
I think,
Good
yeah,
timing.
Dying Light 2
Case in
definitely.
point, let's not do that.
Yeah, it's some real Euro jank, that game, isn't it?
Yeah,
Things like that. Where
There's
it's
stuff like that where it's like they've started to make an effort and they just haven't finished it, and it's kind
Exactly,
of like,
yeah.
you know. But that was really jarring. I was like, well, why? That's really weird, because if they hadn't put, even if you could sit by the campfire and they hadn't put them talking to you, I would have been, it's really good. I like that. I can just sit with them and feel like I'm like part of the group, and it's like everything else. But it's the fact that it's a one-sided conversation, even though Aiden does
It
have
pulls
a
you
voice.
pulls you out, doesn't it? It sort of
Yeah.
pulls you out of what's going on.
But
They
you
should
know,
have just.
I'm not slapping it because I'm loving what I'm playing at the moment with it, and it's great. It's just one of those observations. And the last thing I've been playing, and there's a little story behind this. So I mentioned this before. I play at least once a week with my son, Alex, and we've been playing Halo multiplayer since it came out, pretty much every week. Over the last couple of weeks, he's been having some really serious internet problems. He lives right out in the sticks, and the internet's pretty bad. We've been trying to play, and we haven't been able to. So last Monday, was it Wednesday? It could have been Wednesday. We were kind of like, okay, so let's find something else to play. And so we went on, and I started looking through the Game Pass, and I was looking through the games. Didn't get very far, to be honest. I got stuck in the A's and saw Among Us. Now, I know that I'm super late to the party on this one, because the whole thing about this was, 2 years ago? But I downloaded it, and Alex downloaded it. It's not a big download, 730 megabytes or whatever? It's tiny. And we were playing it straight away. There were a few connectivity issues, but we eventually got on. And I tell you what, we had an absolute blast. So much so that last night we talked Craig and Alex's fiance, and sadly I was trying to get my wife Ellie, but she had internet connection problems, probably because I was stealing all the bandwidth, as she keeps saying. And we all sat, and I tell you what, didn't we have so much fun, Craig?
It was good fun, yeah.
Ridiculous. You, sir, are an absolute lying son of a bee, and you're very good at it. Oh, what do you mean me? I wasn't there. I was walking away. It was somebody else. It was the red dude. Absolute liar, but absolutely brilliant. So funny. I've never laughed so much for ages. It was just so much fun, and I will definitely be playing more Among Us because Ellie really wants to play.
I think
Such
it's
a
one of those
great
games.
party game.
Exactly, it's a party game. It's like a game, that you could be playing in your front room. A game of that kind of deception type thing, the kind of "would you lie to me" sort of element to it. But it's just got that fun little basic mechanic of running around and doing your little tasks in between it, and just trying to figure out who the heck's going and killing everyone.
I'm guessing you played on PC, but you can play on mobile phone as well, can't
No,
you?
it's
On iPads and
cross-platform.
bits.
We were playing on the Xbox. Well, I was playing on the Xbox. I don't know what you were playing on, Craig. You playing on
Xbox, yeah.
Yeah, but Alex and Chloe were playing on their PCs.
Yeah, and
cool.
also there was a
And
couple of
there
people.
were
There was
guys,
Poop
yeah.
and
Poo-poo,
Paper.
yeah.
Poo and
They
Paper.
were playing on mobile, weren't they?
Mobile, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, some classy characters you got in the game there.
Flammable Pete saying, "Oh yeah, I was definitely doing my
Yeah,
tasks."
that's one thing Craig said at one point. Yeah, I'm
So
just
the real
gonna go
question is,
stand over
was
by
he-
this panel and pretend like I'm doing something because I'm not the imposter. Honestly,
yeah.
so much fun. Absolutely,
It was
we
good,
Need,
it was
we
good.
need to get all of us together and have a game because
we definitely should do.
ridiculous.
Definitely, I'll set it up.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is just circle back actually a bit to Dying Light, because obviously we're just talking about it, and that's kind of one that I wanted to talk a bit about, because I think last week, you'd said all the things that you really liked about it, and I was a little bit more on the fence last week, wasn't I? Because I'd kind of played maybe 4 or 5 hours of it, and I was like, it's okay. There was a lot that I wasn't quite getting my head around. And when I said Eurojank a minute ago, what I mean by that is those kind of Cyberpunk almost falls into that a little bit as well. But a lot of these European studios, they create these games with systems upon systems upon systems and layered mechanics and different options and loads of trying to reinvent the wheel with stuff. But it seems everything sort of gets done about 80 to 85%, but nothing gets 100% finished. It's almost like they take too much on to kind of get going with it. And I think it's very much it's kind of a victim for those sorts of things. But anyway, I mean,
they did set themselves a very high bar, Techland, didn't they? They made some very bold promises moving on, and we said last week that in some of them so far it doesn't look like they've been able to completely deliver. But that trying to aim for the stars is never a bad thing in my opinion for a developer. You just have to. It's like people who got so upset about what happened with CD Projekt Red. And I do understand because the hype was so ridiculous over that game that quite frankly I don't think CDPR probably could have delivered the game that everybody wanted in the end anyway.
Only one developer out there could have delivered that to what they said, and that would have been Rockstar.
Yeah. And we'll discuss that in a bit, won't we?
Yeah, we will.
I think,
but anyway,
I think with these games, it's important to aim for the stars as long as you hit the moon.
Yeah, that's it.
You'll be all right.
You are full of the philosophy tonight.
Oh, yes.
But don't keep banging on about hitting the stars and guaranteeing 100% you're going to hit them stars, because it will still be a disappointment.
But anyway, drop it in the background and just aim for the moon.
Yeah, I'm probably into about 20 hours now in that game, I reckon. And so I'm considerably further forward than you, Alan, now, I think.
About 6 or 7 hours in, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if you've made it to the second part of the map yet.
I have not. I'm in no rush. I mean the side quests.
Yeah, I'm not in any rush myself really either. But it's kind of I'm playing it how it naturally feels right. I'm just kind of picking things up as I'm going, doing things as I find them. And I think the further you get down the line, and the more that you play it, and the more mechanics that you start to open up, and the more missions you do that allow you to play with them mechanics. Really, it means you get that game a lot more. And actually, now I'm at this point where I absolutely love the game. It's brilliant. I love the day-night mechanic. I know that we yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, the way they've done it. I also think that the whole kind of choice, the diversity of choice. Like as you're going through, you'll have two options, and there's very specific points where it comes up. You've got two options to choose, and they'll have arrows pointing different ways above them, and you'll have like a countdown timer. You've got to make a decision. Which one are you going to go for? And it very much seems a lot of these decisions I'm now making in the game seem like they're going to have pretty massive consequences to that faction that I'm choosing them against. It also, we were concerned, it only seemed like there was two factions. It looks now that there's three factions by the looks of it, as you get into the new area. So there looks like there's a third one. But I'm really enjoying, as you start, even just from a basic side of things, I'm going into an area and I'm unlocking a water tower, for example. You then say, I want to assign this to either survivors or I want to assign it to the peacekeepers, which are kind of like the military police force, if you like. Neither side are particularly perfect. They're both very flawed, but they're both not evil. Yeah. So when you assign it to one or the other, it gives you, and it changes the map in a specific type of way. So the survivors, when you change that map, it's very much based around the parkour and the navigation of the map. So the first time you put one on there, they put loads more zip lines in. Then you get like trampolines that allow you to jump higher at certain points, and loads of extra little bits like that, just to allow you to get around the city much easier. Whereas if you go peacekeepers, if you're running around at night for combat, there's more traps, more car bombs, more UV stations where you can get safety. So you can really kind of balance your play style against it. So if you prefer going out in the day and you like kind of doing those parkour missions and you're jumping from building to building really fluidly, then you want to push more survivors. But if you are more about getting stuck in and taking zombie hordes out at night, then the peacekeeper way. And I think even that, just as a basic side, it's a really good way that changes the flow of the gameplay. And in terms of the issues that I had early on, it seems like that first day one patch that landed has sorted that. The only issues I've had have been comical, if anything, whacking a zombie and half their body flying through a wall or something, or I chopped one guy's head off and two brains popped out, but the brains were the size of like car tyres, which was really strange. But they're just silly little things.
Just a really clever zombie, that's all.
That's it, yeah, super clever. Yeah, you had two brains really crammed in that head. Yeah. But I think, everything that it's just... It's fun. It's that jank that is just, it doesn't spoil my experience.
It's the Bethesda jank. That's what that is. It's the Bethesda jank. It's like it's broken. It's horribly broken. I know you're never going to fix it, but you know what? It almost adds that element to it. I think that might
be doing a little bit of a disservice to Dying Light, because the jank that I've seen has been nowhere near the level of something like a Bethesda game.
There's quite a bit of jank in it, mate.
I'm getting
but
experience
counterpoint, Bethesda is pretty legendary.
Let's face it, Bethesda, they are the kings of jank.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
It's
definitely.
actually a feature of their games now, like it's listed
That's
in
it.
there.
Well, I mean, it's
Starfield,
fine because
X, Y, Z, Bethesda jank.
But they don't need to fix it, do they? Because they've got a whole modding community that comes in after, and they do it for free. So
Yeah.
why would they want to?
What a great business model. No, but yeah, anyone watching, I would really recommend having a go. You know, it's an absolutely fantastic game. I've played a very small amount co-op. I've played a little bit with Alan. I've also played a little bit with another friend. And the bits I played co-op, it's just a whole nother level of fun running together and just
Didn't you
plowing
just tell
through
me
zombies.
today that you've just opened up the Dropkick? Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, this was one of the things from the first one. If you've never played the first one, the drop kick was the most OP move in the game.
Yeah.
And some of my funnest moments is me and like 2 or 3 of my friends just running around the map, just drop kicking every zombie. Because when you kick them, they go for freaking miles.
Yeah.
And everybody was saying they're going to tone it down for number 2 because it was a little bit OP. They did not. They turned the notch up to 11.
They just leaned into it.
They literally went, if it's going to be OP, we're going to make it so OP, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's apparently it really, really is. You
It's
kick
great
people
fun.
for miles.
When you run across a rooftop and you come running towards and you notice there's a couple of like bandits on a rooftop and one of them screams some obscenity at you and you're like, see you later, mate. Just jump double foot drop kick him right off the side of a high rise building. It's so much fun.
Love it.
It's great stuff. It's great stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it really. I suppose for Dying Light 2 and Phil, you need to get that downloaded and have a go at some point, mate, because you will enjoy it. But
I've got it downloaded. I just haven't pushed the button to turn it on.
yeah, I know there's a lot out at the moment though, isn't there, to play? So the other thing that I've been doing as well is I've been actually revisiting something that I've watched previously, and I've decided to go back through it again because the final season is landing at some point this year, and I thought, now's about the time to start back into it. So it's a Better Call Saul. Now, who here has watched Breaking Bad?
All of it.
Yeah, but you haven't watched Breaking Bad, have you, Phil? Which is a serious faux pas on your point, because that is one of the top shows on TV. Really is. Oh, I remember you didn't really like it, did you, Alan?
What Better Call
Breaking
Saul?
Bad?
I absolutely love it.
Oh no, sorry, it was Ratley didn't like.
Yeah,
Breaking
I'm under
Bad.
the impression that basically everybody loved Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad so much that actually what happened was in the intro they hypnotized you through the TV just to make you think you'd watch the best TV show ever because you just about it's the best
See,
TV show. It's the best. You just got hypnotized and you watch 45 minutes of utter tripe. It was like Riverdance line dancing, and then it hypnotized you at the end.
This is what I've said before about Vince Gilligan, the writer of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He has an inalienable talent to write when nothing actually ever happens. I've watched episodes of Breaking Bad where literally nothing has happened for 45 minutes and come away and gone, my God, that was so good.
Glued
and
to
it's
it.
It's so clever, it's so well written, it's so rounded, all the characters are so fleshed out that it don't need massive things to happen in an episode. And
It's the way it's shot as well, isn't it?
Yeah, everything. The opening titles, everything.
There you go. Flammable Pete. What show can do a whole episode about killing a housefly and have you captivated still? That's totally it. The whole episode about catching a fly, and it was brilliant. One of the best ones they did. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, I'm back in Better Call Saul. So I'm on to season 2 already. So I only started the other night, but actually my youngest, he got COVID. He got tested positive for COVID, so he was very, very poorly one evening. Really, really high temperature, so I sort of sat in his bedroom all night while he was kind of sleeping and kept waking up and just checking his temperature and giving him Calpol and stuff. And I thought, I need to stay awake. So I just had one headphone in with my phone and I was watching Better Call Saul just to keep me awake while I was checking him. So I got through about 3/4 of a season just sitting up all night till about 5 o'clock in the morning making sure he was all right. But I kind of wanted to visit this because I know Phil hasn't watched Breaking Bad, but Better Call Saul as well. It's just fantastic television. Just the way they develop the characters, and it's absolutely.
Bob Odenkirk is absolutely fantastic actor. He holds
really is.
that series together. It's not to say anybody else in that. Everybody is fantastic. Everybody does a star turn, but Bob Odenkirk is superb as Saul Goodman or I've forgotten his name, but
Jimmy McGill.
Jimmy McGill, because I've actually watched up to the. It just gets better and better, Craig.
It does.
I've watched series 5,
Yeah.
just the end of last year. So and it's just get every season you think it can't possibly get any better, and it does. Every
It really
single
does.
season.
Yeah. And that's the final season is this year, isn't it? With season 6, so
yeah.
it will be sorely missed, but it's so good.
But,
So yeah. So that's kind of what we're doing there. But over to you, Mr. Phil. What have you been up to, my friend?
we haven't got time. Let's move on.
It's one last.
Go on, Phil.
I will keep it brief though. So obviously, I watched the Jack Reacher series. We discussed that earlier. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved the way it was shot. Loved the characters. Loved the choice of actors as well. So I'm not going to go into that because we obviously talked about that. So something I purchased on Apple TV and watched
Actually,
again.
give me just 1 second. Actually, just going back onto Jack Reacher. Did everybody see the cameo right at the end of Jack Reacher?
No.
No. So
I missed the cameo.
right, literally in the last scene.
Did Tom Cruise
where-
turn up?
No, not Tom Cruise. Not Tom
He's
Cruise.
too short,
This
we
isn't a
wouldn't be able to see
spoiler. This isn't a spoiler because, as you can imagine, Jack Reacher doesn't die.
Oh no! Yes, Lee Childs in the
Yes.
restaurant.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
completely
As he walked
forgot
past, I was
about
like,
that,
"Was
yeah.
that Lee Child?" And I
He
rewound
bumps
it, and I
past
got
him in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And says, "Oh, sorry, mate."
Yeah.
And then just balls back. It's Lee Childs. Yeah.
Yeah.
The author.
yeah, which is really good. Sorry, Phil. Carry on.
That was kind of all I wanted to talk about with that. So thank you for participating.
No worries. Just a quick message from Ryan. Just me, or does Ryan just Phil look like a robot sitting still the entire time?
I'm trying not to move too much. Would you like me to move? Is that better? I'm a real boy, honestly.
I just sit here swinging from side to side all the time. I don't care.
Yeah. Sorry, Phil.
I
go
don't know.
on.
I've been trying to. That's the mistake. I won't sit still. I look like a robot.
It's out. Phil is a cyborg.
Oh God, Azimuth's laws are binding me. I can't kill you to keep a secret either.
Go on, Phil. Sorry.
What else have you been watching?
So the other thing I watched, I purchased Doom, not Doom, June.
Oh.
Purchased June.
I'm going to watch that
not Doom.
tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that tomorrow.
So I picked it up on Apple TV. I watched it when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it. And it's been a good couple of months, so I watched it again, and what a great movie! I absolutely
good.
loved it. The fight scenes, the actors were brilliant. The whole bulbous bad guy Baron thing,
The
that sort of
Harkonnen
flies
guy.
in the air. The
Baron
Harkonnen guy.
Harkonnen,
Yeah, I forget. I can't remember the name of the actor, but he's the same guy that's in a lot of the Marvel stuff. He plays the crazy professor guy who runs around with his trousers missing in Thor 2. I've forgotten the guy's name.
Oh, Stellan Skarsgård, is it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. He's the guy, and he's brilliant in that. It's just you really want to hate that guy. There's the stuff they do with just the special effects, like the blue. I don't know how they managed to do it with the blue eyes. Like, it seems so simple, but it looks so natural in that. There must have been so much special
That's
effects
the
gone
spice,
into just
that is.
that. It's all about the spice. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. The sandworms looked epic in it as well. Like, just that face with
it's
all
interesting
the little
'cause
teeth.
This is like the third televisual adaptation of James Herbert. James.
Yeah, there was the original
Not James Herbert,
Doom.
but anyway,
And then was there-
the original series with was it with Kyle? What's his name from Twin
MacLachlan.
Peaks? Kyle MacLachlan, as the lead.
And they did that.
then
Is
there
it
was
The
another-
Children of
there was a
June or
three-
something
There was a
with
three-part
McAvoy?
series, and it's really expensive. I tried to get hold of it, and it had like Ian McNeice as Harkonnen and other people, and it was came out, and I think it was in the 90s. And it's but it's really hard to get hold of on the DVD set. But they when I watched it, that was also fantastic. And don't get me wrong, the first one has aged a bit, but it still stands up on its own. So it seems like maybe it's just the content that it's coming from. It's just such a good story that it adapts so well, and that they seem to be because I don't think any of them have missed the mark in my opinion.
There's also Children of June as well, which has got James McAvoy in it. That's on, I think, is it Amazon Prime?
Amazon
I think
Prime.
has that. Yeah,
And Susan
I haven't
Sarandon
watched
as well.
it. Yeah, I haven't watched it because I was a bit dubious. I was like,
I've heard, I've read
I might just have to
not
give it a
too
go and see how I get on.
complimentary stuff, but
Yeah. So, question though, physics question here. So the sandworms are massive, right? They don't appear to be able to close their mouths, and they go under the sand. So do they just eat the sand and crap it out at the same time, or how does that kind of thing work?
It's like whales. Okay, so the water goes in the whale and it all gets filtered. So the plankton with the sandworms, it's the same
And
thing.
it just
The
comes
sand
out
just gets
some
filtered
orifice.
out, and all of the stuff that they eat normally, because they don't. What do you think they eat? They eat like the minerals and stuff that's in the sand, so it then gets filtered out. So they're like whales. Have you read the book?
I haven't read the book, no.
No, neither have
glad I
I'm
asked
just-
you. Oh, okay.
I'm just pretending like I know what I'm talking about.
What if that's a lie, Alan? You might have just lied to our
It
entire
sounded
audience.
like
of-
it was true, though, didn't it? You believe me.
That means it's true.
Yeah.
I've used that technique many a time when
I've
selling
makes
actually-
sense.
things,
I've
and I
actually
like
got-
it.
I've actually got the book behind me here. It's actually that one right there, and I've tried to read it multiple times, and I keep failing. But I'm
Yeah.
actually about 3 chapters in, so I'm trying to.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can you set it as homework and let me know in a couple of weeks what the outcome is if it's in there?
I'll let you know about the
And if
words.
it's not in the book and you read it all
Yeah.
not to get me the answer, I'm really sorry.
Now I hear that this film finishes on quite the cliffhanger because I think there's 3 books in the series, isn't there? And this is the first book, I believe.
Yes, yeah. So I assume they're planning to do 3 books, 3 movies.
Yes.
That's the assumption I've gone. Yeah, it does end on a bit of a humdinger. There's loads of action. Things get destroyed. Obviously, there are fights and stuff going on without ruining anything. And it gets there, and you're basically just walking off into the desert, and it's like, yeah. So next chapter. And it's like,
Yeah, it seems like
Yes.
they really missed the mark that they didn't do a Lord of the Rings with this and kind of film them back to back. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
they were obviously waiting to see if it was actually going to be a success because
Yeah.
wasn't it Blade Runner? I've got 27, not
2048.
2077,
2049?
2049,
2049.
2077, cyberpunk.
2064? 2069?
Yeah, Blade Runner 2. So
Blade Runner.
that was, in fact, Denis Villeneuve as well, wasn't it? Did that one. I don't know. I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that actually it was a critical success, but it wasn't a commercial success. So I think potentially they were maybe thinking that, they're going to see how it does
Greenlight.
before they green light another one, because it's that kind of real sort of heavy, deep sci-fi, a bit like that Foundation series I was watching on Apple TV.
Oh, God, I hope that
yes.
comes out soon. I really
Yeah,
want
it's quite niche in the way it is, and I don't think it's kind of mainstream. It's not a Marvel movie, do you know what I mean, or a Fast and the Furious film that makes $1 billion
No, it's-
type.
It's too clever for the mass
Yeah.
audience, is what you say.
Well, without saying it, but
that's a
this is where-
sweeping, that is a
person.
sweeping statement
it-
there, Alan.
It is true. In general, the most popular films are the simple films. They don't have complex storylines. Many
popcorn
people
flick.
just either don't get them, or it's why something like Shawshank Redemption failed so abysmally at the cinema, because people were confused by the title before they even watched it. They're like, "What's a Shawshank Redemption? I don't know." And then they went and watched it, and it was just it wasn't what they were expecting, and it just didn't do very well. I think generally the cinema audience, they want to go and watch Marvel movies or romance movies or stuff like that.
Yeah.
They want the simple stuff.
It's a Saturday night
It's
out,
easy. Yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't have to pay too much attention to get the most out of it.
But
I
Blade
can't
Runner
do that.
2049 was just a stunning film, and quite
I
frankly,
love
it. I love that.
For him, you can't sing his praises enough, because everybody said, "How can you make a sequel to Blade Runner, one of the most iconic science fiction films of all time? You cannot make us." And then he did, and it was so good. It almost, if some people even think it's better than the first one, I'm not sure. I think it's pretty much up there, but it's still a stunning achievement, and it is such a good film.
Have either of you? There's a Blade Runner series as well called Black Lotus, and I believe you can watch it through 4 on demand.
Oh, really?
It's like a Japanese animated style one, but it's a very Western style of animation in there. But it's obviously in Japanese, and then they've been dubbing it at the same time. So the dubs are about 3 episodes behind. And I think the one on 4OD is the dubbed version rather than the subtitled. So I watched it through Crunchyroll because I have a subscription to that.
I always
And
love
that-
it when the dubs are 3 behind.
Well, it just takes them time to, get it right. But I mean, I watched that, and I watched the first 9 episodes. I'm still waiting for the last couple to drop. So, and that's really good, and it's really well involving. It seems to fit really well. Like the atmosphere is brilliant in it. It really feels like a Blade Runner
It's a great
TV
universe.
series.
As I say, I
But-
don't understand why they didn't make more stuff, but that makes sense to make an animated series, because there's so much background material.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with that is it made me then want to go back in and watch 2049 and to learn more about Blade Runner. So I watched the first movie, loved it, didn't think too much of it because I watched it when I was a lot younger. Watched 2049, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I really enjoyed that. That's great. And then that was kind of the end of my story because I didn't know where to go to find any more about it. And I'm not a massive into reading books or anything. And then they did this Black Lotus series, and I thought, you know what? Now I kind of want to go back and watch 2049 and the original Blade Runner again and start learning about the different series of the androids, not the androids, the replicants. Yeah, because there's like the basic replicants that get caught out by that test where they get contradictions in their emotions and their answers, and then there was the ones that evolved, and then there was the ones that evolved so much they could have kids and reproduce, and then they wouldn't have serial numbers. And I suddenly went down this massive Google rabbit hole, and Black Lotus sits squarely right at the end, where they've effectively, the replicants have evolved, and you're following a replicant, but you don't know if she's a replicant or not. You think she is, but she isn't.
There's a lot
she
of
doesn't have
people
a serial
still
number.
convinced that
Harrison Ford
Yeah.
is a replicant.
character
Yeah.
is a replicant. Yeah.
Deckard, yeah, but
Deckard,
even
yeah. Deckard,
yeah, Deckard,
yeah.
but it's Deckard, yeah.
Deckard Shaw? Deckard...
I was going to say Deckard Cain, but I think he's in Diablo. But it is
That is,
Deckard.
that's
Yeah.
Deckard Cain.
Yeah.
I went straight to Deckard Cain as well when you said that.
But there's the old man who's from Hereditary. But yeah, yeah, definitely. I forgot what I was going to say. Let's move on.
Well, I want to read something actually. Just on, we're talking about. We've gone on a complete tangent here. It was Dennis Villeneuve
Yeah,
threw us
I
off,
know.
wasn't it? Really, but yeah, there's actually on here. So, Blade Runner's next act will apparently be a live-action TV series from Amazon with original director Ridley Scott set to return as executive producer on the project. Blade Runner 2099, and that's from Variety. So that's a
Well, that's
it's a pretty
exciting.
reputable outlet to report that. And
Well,
to
I
be
mean,
honest,
if they spend as much money as they're spending on Lord of the Rings, or even half
Yeah.
of the money they're spending on Lord
That's
of the Rings,
gonna be
that will
pretty
be
damn amazing.
phenomenal.
yeah,
That
yeah.
will be-
So
yeah.
that could be pretty awesome. Look forward to that.
I mean, I'd definitely recommend, if you like the Blade Runner series and you like the whole lore of that Black Lotus does a really good job of capturing that feel of Blade Runner. Like, you know, everything's very dark and dank, and
I
you know,
can't
just-
watch 4 on demand. I don't have a TV license.
Oh, you don't need a TV license to watch 4 on demand. It's got adverts.
yeah, it's BBC stuff you have to pay for.
It's only
isn't it?
BBC,
and
yeah.
radio.
That's all right. I can watch that.
I'm sure I can just lend you my.
Because you
Crunchyroll
can't even play
login if needs
BBC
be.
iPlayer now if you don't have if you don't have a TV license.
Yeah. Equally, if you've you've got an do you have Game Pass Ultimate? You don't. Do you use Fields?
Oh,
I use Phil's. Yeah.
There's a
yes,
free.
but you
trial.
can do a 3-month trial, and I can't use it because I already have an account, so I can probably give you my 3-month trial.
Okay, cool.
I'm sure there'll be
watch it.
something we can do.
Who's
Yeah,
Dunno.
I think that might be me.
Anyway,
It's my
Phil.
work
So
tablet.
yeah, no, nice one. June then. We'll check that one out. What have you been playing, mate?
So there's 2 games I want to talk about, but I will again keep it quite short. So the first one I've been
that
playing.
was really short. That last one, Phil. Well
I
done, you.
tried. It's not my
That was
fault.
my fault, to be fair. I took it on a right tangent
On a
with Blade
tangent.
Runner.
So it's 2 things I want to talk about. The first one is the Old Republic. I've been playing that game hard because
you noticed.
I was determined to play through the Sith Sorcerer storyline on that, because when I first played it, I played good and I played Republic side and I played a Jedi Sentinel, got to the end of the story, enjoyed it. And I tried to play the Sith Sorcerer about 3 times because, as we're all aware, one of my favourite phrases to shout when we're playing games is "taste my lightning." So the Sith Sorcerer, perfect character, and I was determined to finish the story of that before Horizon Forbidden West came out, and I've finally done it. Got to the end of it. I'm so unbelievably over-leveled. Like, the story finished at 50, I'm like level 67 out of 75, so the XP is rather generous in this game. But do you know what? I absolutely loved it. Like, it does feel like a 10-year-old game. Like, you can tell it was kind of 2012, 2013, and it's very much a tab targeting. Press 1 and then press 2, and hopefully 2 procs number 4, and you press number 4 and it casts it a little bit quicker. It's very much like you're a proper keyboard warrioring on that. You're dancing between little cooldowns and things like that. But you know what? It's great. And you know, everything in that game, much to Craig's enjoyment, is properly voice acted. Like, there's none of that where they say the first line and then they stop and you have to read the rest of the text. And I think, pretty sure when we first played that game, didn't it cost something like 200 million to make or something? They invested a
I think it
shitload
was
of
about
money.
that, yeah. Yeah, there was
So-
there was thousands and thousands of hours of voice lines, and that I think it was the first one to really do it. The next one was Elder Scrolls Online. And, you know, these companies can do this. You know, they can fully voice act these MMOs. Yes, it is costly, but it makes it sound like I'm just being really overly picky. But it just really frustrates me when you walk up to a quest giver and he goes, "Hello, adventurer. Thank you for coming to talk to me." And then that's it. And then you just have to click through about 55 lines of text, you know, rather than
get
actually
the
just
background, yeah.
They could just summarise it in a shorter line and just voice it. You know, it just kind of takes me out of it a little bit. And I guess
Yeah.
that is more the MMO RPG side of it rather than it being an RPG. And it's but the role.
It's that kind of, I think it's that kind of throwback from like the old card games where, you know, you wrote, or like your Dungeons and Dragons where you wrote like a very exponent like background about it. And I think it's trying to get that element, trying to capture that by giving you a lot
On
of
the
text
cheap.
and background on the cheap. Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. I mean, that's something that's really nice about that game. You know, they've also added 4 lots of DLC since then.
Yeah. I just
talk
had
about that in a
Flammable
sec,
Pete
Pete.
come up saying you'll hate Lost Ark then. Yeah, I think we're going to cover that in a minute.
We will cover that in a moment, yeah. So, I mean, for anybody who is a Star Wars fan, that game is an absolute must. You get to explore all of those worlds, like your Hoth and your Belsavises and your Tatooines. You get to go out and explore those worlds in depth and speak to characters within there, and there's always cameos from popular characters popping up here and there as well. So it's highly recommended. Also, if you're a massive fan of the original Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2, there's loads of nice little cameos that come in from that. We did a whole Flashpoint that followed up on the Revan storyline,
Yeah.
which I've been saying they need to do, like finish the story, so to speak, do a Knights of the Old Republic 3, and they kind of did that through that sort of 2 or 3 Flashpoints
Yeah.
we played through.
Yeah.
I mean, it gave me a bit of closure around Revan, so I felt a lot better actually. You know. Completed my Star Wars journey for Knights of the Old Republic. So
Because for all intents and purpose, this game is Knights of the Old Republic 3, isn't it?
it kind of is, yeah. It kind of is, yeah. And you know, they've started closing off. You know, now that was one of the first, but there's a couple others where they've closed off other story arcs for me as well that were kind of left a bit open. So that's really nice. So I would highly recommend that to any Star Wars fan. The other game I've been playing, as Pete just mentioned, is Lost Ark. Now, I have been waiting for this game for about 8 years. It was around about 2013, 2014 when it came up on, I think, a YouTube channel at the time called MMO Byte. And I was super into my MMORPGs, and I was playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14. And you know what? I played so many, I can't even think off the top of my head. I sent Craig a list once, and it was about 20 different MMORPGs I'd played for at the time, from Elder Scrolls and really obscure ones as well. I played a lot of Terra, just basically anything. I was, another MMO, I'll give that a go and see how it goes. And some of them I fell off within sort of 10, 15 hours. Some of them I spent thousands of hours in. But Lost Ark popped out, and at the time, I think I'd also only very recently played Diablo 3, so I was on that bit of that kind of 2.5 isometric hype as well, and that came out. And I saw this footage of Lost Ark, and I was like, oh my god, it's like Diablo, but an MMORPG. Like, this is the one. And the graphics now, if you play this game now, it looks exactly the same as the demos they showed back in 2013. Like, almost it has not evolved in 8 years. But can you imagine how good that game looked 8 years ago? Like, it was on the cusp of what the technology could do.
It's a nice looking game, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but it looked that good 8 years ago. That's what
I think
I'm saying.
the thing
So at
with
the
this
time,
game is it really benefits from the fact that it is zoomed out. Because when you do zoom into the characters, you can see they're quite low resolution. There's quite low polygon count, but because it zooms out, it all looks really nice, and the art style is really well done on it.
So yeah, but yeah, 8 years I've been waiting.
Isn't this
and
published by Amazon Studios as well?
Yeah.
it is finally, yeah, originally it was just a Korean game, and I think for the first 4 years it was, and then Amazon have kindly picked it up and brought it to the West.
Kindly,
So
yeah.
fancy
Yeah, that's for the
Kindly,
goodness
yeah.
of their heart.
absolutely, there is absolutely no money to be made in this game whatsoever in microtransactions. I'm not going to throw that out because most of it seems to be cosmetic, so I'm okay with that. But the gameplay, the control mechanism, I'm going to talk about that. It's very initially confusing. And part of that, I think, is my fault because I picked the gunner class, and I just, contrary to any other MMO, like normally your abilities are on like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then like usually F1, F2, F3, F4, so on and so forth. On this, you left click or right click with your mouse to move, and then you either left click or right click, depending on your setup. It's either left click to move, right click for attack, or right click to move, left click for attack. So almost all your movement's done on the mouse. And then your abilities are under your QWERTY keys, and there's 8. And the problem with the gunslinger is there's 8 with one weapon, then you've got 2 other weapons. So you've got 3 different weapons with 8 abilities on each one that all have their own separate cooldowns, and you have to cycle. My mind was absolutely blown within the first 10 minutes of trying to remember. I was like, so I need that one for long range, and this one's close range, but that's on cooldown. So if I switch to the other one, I can use that one, and by which point I've been absolutely bum rushed by God knows how many ads. So the mistake I made was the gunslinger apparently is the most technically challenging class, and it is not the one for beginners. So at which point I promptly retired my gunslinger and moved on to one of the brawler classes, which I will report. It's like a monk basically, where you're just hammering people with fists and massive gloves and doing ground stomps, and that is extremely satisfying to play. It's really fluid. You've got a nice kind of dodge mechanic that you can use as well, where you can sort of get in and hammer them and dodge out and let them all sort of line up in a nice row, and then you run back in and destroy them with one hit. So satisfying. Like Diablo, but on crack. I'm going to say. Diablo on
Yeah, I've
crack.
had a bit of a blast at this as well, yeah, it's certainly. I mean, as Flammable Pete said, you'll hate Lost Ark. Then, yeah, it is your typical sort of kind of Korean MMO. It very much feels like Black Desert, but from a different angle, if you like.
Yeah.
But the combat is more enjoyable. It's currently at the moment I need to get into it a bit further. So at the minute I'm doing a lot of taking some flowers from one person to another, or delivering fruit
That's a
pies,
very
or
classic
or-
Eastern
So I'm
MMO.
curious on this one because we had this conversation last week about New World, isn't it? And I know, Craig, that you're all about the grind. You love the grind. So
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard.
How's the grind feeling in this one? You know, where you have to go collect this, go and send that person this, go and
Yeah,
get
so-
that, take it here, do that.
Yeah,
Over
so
and
yeah, as I
over.
was saying, so at the start, there's very much of this. So I'm just trying to see if I can push through this to get to. So when the combat starts, the combat is really fun. And enjoying that, and there is a clear story to it as well. It's the prologue's quite good, the way it explains the story. I won't go into the detail of it, but it's worth playing. It is free to play, so worth picking up to have a
That's
blast.
the other thing to bear in mind. It's free to play as well,
Yeah.
which is a nice move.
Yeah, so,
Access for all.
But at the minute, I'm kind of going around this kind of starter area where I'm still getting tutorial bits pop up where they're telling me how to do different mechanics. So I might fight a bunch of giant chickens or, whatever the hell they are, lizards or something. And it very much feels like I need to get through this area to get into the crux of the game, which I'm quite willing to do, to put a good few hours in. I think, as we said, I put about 100 hours into New World in the end. Kind of pushing through the grind, and realised that when we got to a certain point, I think we got to a point where I had to grind up 10 levels to get to my next story mission, and the story mission was like, yes, you need to go here, but you have to be another 10 levels higher to go there. I was like, oh, come on. And realised that there was literally nothing to that game but grind, and I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Combat's really fun. You can play it with a controller as well, which I found
Yes, that is
quite good.
definitely a recommendation as well. So I did the same thing. I was trying mouse and keyboard initially. I've now gone to that brawler class, and I've switched over to a controller, and that's
How does
I don't know,
that
it feels
work
much
with
more
8
actiony.
different buttons for 3 different weapons? That means you need 24 buttons. How does that fit onto a controller?
They've been very clever. So Final Fantasy XIV did a fantastic job of this. Basically, you've got your X, triangle, B and A buttons, and then you've got 4 moves on there. You hold your left trigger, that gives you another 4. Hold the right trigger down,
That's
that gives
8.
you another 4.
So
Yeah,
that's 12.
and then hold RB, another 4 there, and then hold OB, another
16.
4.
So a 20. We're 4 shy.
You got D-pad as well,
Okay.
so you can put your your potions and stuff on your
It's
D-pad as well.
going to do wonders for my arthritis.
Yeah, you have to be a bit. You have to be a bit. A bit ambidextrous.
Dexterous.
Yeah.
Dexterous is the term. Yeah. The grind is definitely strong. I'm interested to see what the story is, to see whether that has the legs to keep it going. Like you said with Black Desert, the combat I found really fun in Black Desert, but the story just sort of petered out into nothing as far as I could tell, and I'd end up just getting bored. So hopefully this will keep me hooked for a lot longer. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's free to play, so I would highly recommend people check it out if you like Diablo.
Where
if
can you
like
pick it up, Phil?
MMORPGs. Steam is my port of choice. I believe you can also go direct to the website and just download a client for the game as well.
Cool.
Good stuff. Yeah, coolio. Oh, and just to finally cap that off, Pete's just put a little message up there saying another 8 years of queues too. That's another thing worth mentioning. That if you
Yeah,
want to
the
try it
queues
out
are
today,
strong.
there
bother.
is thousands and thousands of people in the queue. I tried to have a little go this afternoon, and I think I was 5,700th in the queue because I was trying to start a new server so me and Phil could play together. And by the time it got down to about 3,000, it said there's no more spaces left to create new characters. So
Yeah, I'm not
you're a
quite
bit-
sure
yeah.
how their servers are working out there. I would give it a couple of weeks and they'll spin up some more servers and
Yeah.
do
I mean,
whatever they
very
do to
much-
optimise it.
Again, New World was the same, wasn't it? When it first launched, the queues
God.
were massive.
And we wanted
and-
to play that so badly. I remember sitting there for like 2 hours just watching
Yeah.
the number go down. Obviously, I was on my phone, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know obviously Flammable Pete said the queue was about 20 minutes from sort of 4 to 5,000 in, so it's not too bad actually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, put it on queue, go and stick your washing in, whatever you need to do. Do your chores.
Nice.
Good excuse.
stuff. Cool. Right. Okay. So that's sort of got us up to date with what everyone's been up to. So now on to the first thing I want to talk about. Actually, before we go on to the headline that I mentioned on the beginning, which was GTA 6, just wanted to do a little bit of a special mention. It's something I know Alan has never played, but I think he's very interested in. But me and Phil played and are pretty excited for the announcement of Wolf Among Us 2. Isn't there, Phil? So, pretty.
I love the
pretty
first one.
excited. Yeah. So it looks, I mean, we were kind of discussing this a little bit beforehand, that Telltale Studios, this is again a Telltale Studios game coming back. Now, they went bust. So I'm assuming that there was something along the lines of some kind of investment back into, or they were bought, the IPs were bought by another company.
I hope they changed the upper management, because they were the ones that basically ran the company into the ground in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got bought by somebody. I'm going to have to check now.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, so anyway, regardless of that, I mean, the good news is that we've got not the Among Us, the Wolf Among Us. Going back to that game we were playing last night. Yeah, got Wolf Among Us coming back, because actually for me, with the Telltale games, I mean, I think pretty much everybody played the Walking Dead game, because that was their real standout title. But they released lots of different IP. There was the Borderlands, there was Batman.
They did a Game of Thrones one as well.
Game of Thrones, Guardian of the Galaxy. There was loads of sort of, really famous IP. A lot of them I would play and kind of would fall off pretty much after an episode. I wouldn't get kind of really hooked into it. The closest one I think was probably Borderlands. I did quite enjoy that. That was quite an interesting story. But The Wolf Among Us was absolutely fantastic. It's based off the Fables comic books. And it's all about, you've got kind of dark characters of like, your Little Red Riding Hood, or the Big Bad Wolf, which is, the guy, you can see Scarecrow there and Tin Man on the video, and like Snow White, for example. All these kind of characters, but told in a really dark and seedy way, and it makes it really, really interesting.
The thing for me is that was the first of those Telltale style games I played, and I think maybe that's what drew me into it as well, because it was just a completely different narrative of gameplay or storytelling to what I'd had previously, particularly as a big kind of MMO person as well. It was very much drip-fed stories, whereas that was nice and concise. There was a lot happening in each of the games, and your decisions felt like they weighted on the outcome as well, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Just to reference, it was LCG Entertainment.
Oh, okay.
It was a new Halloween company that was formed. Apparently, some...
Yeah, it's not coming out until 2023, so it is still a way off. But it does look from that video, unless that is purely CGI, which it didn't look that way, does look like they're running it on a new engine, because Telltale's engine was pretty janky and quite old and needed updating. Hopefully they've, it would make sense to put it onto an Unreal 4 or something, Unreal 5.
Yeah, I don't think they could ever afford to previously, could they? Particularly with their financial troubles.
Yeah.
So just keep cranking the content out.
Yeah, it's certainly one worth, I think, before that game comes out, Alan, I'd definitely recommend to pick up the first one and have a go. Wolf Among Us, you can probably pick it up dirt cheap. It's a fantastic story to play. It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
99% sure it was a giveaway on Games for Gold a few years ago. So I reckon if you hunt back through your Games for Gold catalogue, it'll be there, or actually Game Share with me, so I'm 99% sure I've got it floating in there somewhere. So you'll be able to just download it from there and play it.
Yeah, really gripping story, story. So, yeah, just a little bit of a special mention on that one there. So, yeah, so the main topic for this week we want to go through, like I said, was GTA 6. So, we're not going to be breaking anything, amazing sort of news or having any gameplay trailers, because, there isn't anything yet. But you know what? Same with when GTA 5 first announced what they were doing there, by just literally posting a picture of a V on their Twitter, and it was like the most viewed thing for like a week on the internet. Anything Rockstar comes up, people go absolutely nuts about. So we had this little tweet come up. So many of you have been asking about a new entry into the Grand Theft Auto series. With every new project, our goal is always to significantly move beyond what we've previously delivered. We're pleased to confirm that active development for the next entry in the series is underway. And obviously this is, you can see down the bottom there's, whenever this was posted, 600,000 likes and 105,000 retweets, straight away it's just gone absolutely crazy.
Round the internet.
yeah, because it's been a huge amount of time since GTA 5 first came out. That was 2013 GTA 5 came out.
On 360 and PS3, wasn't it?
On 360 and PS3. It then got re-released onto the PC.
Xbox One.
And then got re-released onto Xbox One and PS4. And they're now at the point, I think is it next month when they're releasing the next gen
PS5
update again.
And,
yeah, so this game will have spanned across 3 generations, and it hasn't waned in any way, shape, or form in popularity. With GTA Online, it's still one of the top played games out there. They keep adding a wealth of content, and it's making them money hand over
They've got
fist.
so I mean, I think only
Yeah.
Steam has actually outrun them in the amount of money they've made
Yeah.
as a developer but it's just sorry, Valve, should I say?
Do you mean Epic or for
But
Fortnite?
anyway, I
Yeah.
mean the amount of money is just absolutely astonishing. It's like it's almost like we said it before. The online content is almost like they're printing money. They don't need to make another game. They can everybody can just retire, go home, and put their feet up in their beach houses with their private jets outside. And they don't need to. So the fact they are working on it is great. But let's be honest, we kind of knew they were.
Yeah.
We're all
hoped they were.
aware that it was happening. Yeah, there's eventually that cash cow's the milk's gonna run dry.
I think the only thing that's ever really going to
Could
run
be another 10
GTA
years.
5 dry is releasing GTA 6. And I think it's one of those things they just have to do it at some point. Now, let's be honest, if we're getting a tweet out this early, or to kind of talking about this, I don't think we're going to see any kind of trailer. I doubt we're going to see anything this year trailer-wise. Maybe we
It's
might
got
see
to be
a trailer
another
next
4 or
year.
5 years, isn't it?
I don't know. Do you think that?
I'm thinking it's 4 or 5 years.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised
sort of
that they
2025.
would make an announcement as small as it is if they're not at least in the ballpark of going to be able to show something at least sometime this year. And I'm not talking about a full-on trailer. I'm thinking about, like when GTA 4 was released. And the first time they mentioned it, literally, I think it was 3 months after the first time they met. They said they put out the first trailer, which just showed some shots of the city, but didn't really show any gameplay. It was just showing off the engine.
And it floored everyone.
Yeah, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, that's just amazing!"
Yeah.
It was astonishing.
This
so
announcement,
much more advanced. So I mean, I'm very optimistic that the fact that they've said something, because let's say I've just said it, we all knew they were going to make another one. They had to. In the end of the day, everybody has been waiting for the announcement for years, and now that they've announced it, that kind of says to me that they have got something that they can show us in the near future, not the far future. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's going to be. I'd be amazed if it came out before 2024, but as far as being able to show us something, just a little snippet, I would be very hopeful something this year.
you see, to me, it smells a little bit like the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement. Don't worry, boys. We're working on it. You'll see it eventually.
Yeah.
Here's a
Working out-
title.
As if we've made a title, and here's a card.
Well, here's the thing. Rockstar haven't even shown us a title.
No.
So they've shown us even less than we've seen of the Elder Scrolls 6. So it's
They
possible.
don't need to.
Rockstar have, let's be honest, unlimited money, unlimited resources, unlimited time, pretty much unlimited fan, love. They can do pretty much whatever they want because, if a GTA game comes out, it's going to be the best-selling game of the next 10 years if GTA 5 is anything to go by. So they can kind of run by their own playbook, really. And they push technology and they push games forward in what they do. They have done every time. And much like they said in that tweet, that's what they're planning to do going forward. And that's kind of got me thinking for a bit of a question to pose to you guys. So actually, Phil, I'm going to mix it up. I am going to go to you first with this one. All right?
Steady on, mate.
So,
All right.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, okay, so with GTA 6, we obviously know nothing about it. And they're saying they want to push the envelope and want to do something new or change something up. What, in your mind, what would you love to see out of GTA 6?
More horse testicles.
Brilliant. Okay, so a bit of a
Joking,
hybrid with
seriously.
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. They've
back
got
to
the
hentai,
technology
yeah.
there. They can bring it across. No. What would I like to see? I've been thinking really hard about this, trying to, what kind of things. Because
Is that
GTA
why you've got
5,
a tick on the side of your face? Did you have a little stroke?
what, from thinking about it? Of horse testicles?
Anyway,
Not sure where to go with that one. Yeah. What do I want to say? I was trying to think about this. The thing with GTA is it always felt good. And it always felt kind of cartoony to me. Like, the way the cars drove was always very arcadey and wishy-washy a little bit and things like that. And kind of part of me wondered whether maybe they would lean more into the realism side. Because the thing with GTA is particularly with GTA 5, they did a great job of crafting what felt like a really alive world. It was always kind of people doing their things. And I'm 100% sure they're going to dive really deeply into that. I'm sure it's almost like, rather than just like this dude walks into the coffee shop and buys a coffee and walks out, it's going to be like, every one of these characters has their own life model, like their own ambition, their own end game. Like, they'll have their own apartment, they'll go to the coffee shop to buy their coffee, they'll go to their place of work, and they'll, like, every character will have its own life story happening within the city. And part of me makes you think, if they go to that kind of level, are they going to make it realistic? So are the cars going to suddenly feel a lot more realistic as well? Are the shooting going to feel a lot more weighty and a lot less kind of arcadey, so to speak? It's very much hold the trigger, snap to the target, bang them in the head. It's very arcadey feeling. So for me, I'd almost like them to go a bit heavier on the realism, along with creating this really super alive world.
So you kind of jokingly we're referencing Red Dead Redemption, but what you're actually saying is you want them to Red Dead Redemption GTA.
Yeah, because the only reason I don't particularly like Red Dead Redemption is I just don't like cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. If that was in the GTA world, I'd be playing that game, start to
But
finish. I'd have played through it multiple
I
times.
would disagree with what you said there, though. I would say that even Red Dead Redemption, it has a foot firmly in the unreal, as well as based in reality. You know that they're not trying to make everything look absolutely 100% real. The characters, the way they draw them, the animation is distinctly Rockstar style. And I, for one, definitely do not want to see GTA look more realistic, in the sense that when you're running around gunning people down and you're cutting people in half with katanas, I don't want that to look real. That's taking a step too far, and we've had this conversation before. I think they have always trod that line really, really well in GTA, where there's that level of cartooniness to the characters, but at the same time they bring the reality of the world and everything around it to a slightly higher level. I definitely wouldn't want to see it look more real. No.
When I say real, I kind of mean like the world game and the physics base of the game. I don't necessarily, I don't want to feel bad if I go and mug grandma on the street. Like, I don't want to be walking down there and think, oh my god, that looks like my nan, and I've just mugged her. I don't need that. Don't need that guilt in my life.
Do I have to stop killing prostitutes after I've slept with them to get my money back? That's the big question.
Don't you do that anyway, Alan?
Well, I mean...
So I get, I can totally get what you're saying, but I think Red Dead Redemption as a game was, I think the realism. Yes, I get what you're saying, Alan. They're not, they're not trying to make it completely photorealistic, but Red Dead Redemption, the level of detail they went into stuff to make it feel like a believable living world. I think that was the next step up from what they did in GTA 5, wasn't it? And I think the story in Red Dead Redemption was less. Well, it wasn't satirical. It was more, I don't want to say historically accurate, but I suppose I do mean that, really. It was supposed to be set in its time, wasn't it? Whereas GTA has always been mimicking the politics and like a social commentary
it's a satire,
on what's going
isn't
on.
it? Yeah.
A complete satire, yeah. So I know that they'd mentioned in one of their tweets before, I think it was one of the developers, I should have called that tweet up actually, it's just popped into my head. They had mentioned something around, they weren't quite sure what they were going to do with GTA 6 because they felt that the world was almost so ridiculous in its true form that how can you satire the world that it's in right now? And I think that was around the kind of Trump administration and everything that was going on. It was completely insane. That stuff looked like it should have been in Grand Theft Auto. So I guess kind of spinning off what you're saying, do we think maybe they go down this aisle of making it more like a Hollywood blockbuster thriller type thing? So it's more of a serious storyline than more of a jokey fun. Would that detract anything? What do you think, Alan?
I think, again, I think one of the fundamental key points to GTA for me is that farcical world that you live in. And that you listen to the radio and you listen to the DJs and all the different things, and it's just silly. It isn't, yes, it's based with, again, one foot in reality, but it is clearly a world where you can just pop around the corner, buy some guns, and start shooting up the high street. It's that is what GTA is. For me, when I first thought about what would I like to see with GTA 6, I'm thinking back to how it was when I play, and I've been playing, all of them since the first one, the top-down, GTA on the PC, which apparently had 1 million colours in. I remember that as the advert. So 1 million colours. That was the big selling point from.
And you could run over the Harry Krishnas running around, couldn't you?
You could. It was brilliant. It was a fantastic game. It really, really was.
In a Mini with a Union Jack on the
London
roof.
edition. Yeah. But I just remember when GTA 4 came out with Nico Bellic, and it was so good, and the story was so original and fun, and it had a foot firmly in reality and a foot firmly in the farcical and the satirical, and it really married that really, really well. And then they started talking about GTA 5, and they started saying, well, there's going to be like 3 main protagonists. I'm going, that's just ridiculous. How can you do that? How can you have 3 main protagonists? And then it came out, and we all went, oh,
that's how you do it.
That's how you do it, and it's fantastic. It's like you've got 3 amazing characters. You've got. I mean, Trevor Phillips is possibly one of the best characters in any game.
Every
ever.
time you switch over to him, he's in his pants somewhere after a party, or he's putting a body in the boot of a car somewhere.
Exactly, he is a genius character. But they created 3 amazing characters that all bounce off each other, and it's so fantastic. And then I look at what they've really made their money on in GTA, and it's the multiplayer. And obviously they've sold many, many copies of the game, but the amount of money they made on shark cards and everything is just phenomenal. And I think, but what's the one thing that I always felt that was missing from GTA? Because I like messing about in the online content, but I get very bored very, very quickly. I like the heists. The heists were good, but what I feel is really missing is that your character is a non-entity in multiplayer. It's absolutely, there's no personality. You're just this random voiceless person that people talk to.
Man with a gun, yeah.
Exactly. And you don't feel like you're part of the world. It's just, we're just doing stuff. And don't get me wrong, the heists were phenomenal. They really, really were. But I really always felt like I wanted more single player content. And I know they've just released some more, haven't they? Some more single player content.
Well, it's online content, with Dr. Dre, isn't it?
But you can do it on your own, and you don't need to. It's not like a heist. So Nico can. I'm trying to remember.
Nico's cousin would like to go bowling.
What's his name? Nico's Bellic's cousin. I can't remember.
But it's brilliant. Now.
But anyway,
Nico.
And I loved all that. And then I think to what Phil was saying, and I'll come back round, and I have to say that one of the things we talked about before and after Red Dead Redemption 2 came out was the capabilities of the next generation consoles, and the fact that what they do have is this ability to do an awful lot more in the same space. So one of the things that we talked about again in last year's podcast was when Rockstar were going out and stopping people from doing all the mods, and there was one mod that basically had the whole of San Andreas in, and we said at the time, oh, that's a sign they're probably bringing out a definitive trilogy or something, and then sure enough they did. We were right on that. It came out, and sadly it was a bit bloody broken, but the point is that there was this mod where they put together all the maps in all the games. So I think, how far can you go? Well, you need a good story. Definitely. Well, they're definitely good at telling a good story. I've got no worries about that. They have not let me down in any of the GTAs that I've ever played when it comes to story. Rockstar, they rock. They really, really do. So what do I want to see? Well, I remember playing San Andreas, and it is one of my favourite incarnations of GTA, because when I played it, it seemed like it was vast. Now, don't get me wrong. Now it's been re-released, and you can stand there and see to the edges of the world. It's bloody tiny. It's not that big at all. But at the time, you felt like it was just a vast map with so much to do in it, jetpacking across Las Vegas or whatever, Los Santos or whatever, and it was just like you had so much to explore and so much to do. So you add that to this whole sort of like massive world. They could do the whole state of San Andreas with Los Santos in it, with San Ferrero in it, and you could travel all over that, the whole of that world, but with the level of detail that we would expect from a game in this day and age. The stuff that they did in Red Dead Redemption, which was easier because they didn't have high rises or lots of houses, it's mostly cabins, but we want everything to be accessible. And I agree with Phil, I want to see characters that inhabit that world. I want to follow people home and murder them in their house because I'm a psycho. But you want
to stake out Larry, who is the bank manager, and you find out where he lives, lives, and you go in, and then you threaten him, and then he goes in and lets you into the bank vault to rob him.
Exactly. No,
And you can
take his family hostage.
Exactly. As I say, you take his family hostage. That's exactly it. You get one of your henchmen, right, stand here. If he doesn't deliver, you kill him. And then when he doesn't deliver, you get to press the button on the phone that kills his wife.
I'm not sure about that. I'm a bit worried about morals at this point. Yeah, I'm a bit worried. But I just think that the level of
boys.
The believability of the world and the depth to the world, I think, is something that we have the processing power with the PlayStation 5 and the Series X now.
Well,
It's
the
something-
artificial
guys,
intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
guys
I-
both
and I
tried
think
the
it's something
Matrix demo,
Rockstar
yeah?
will want to explore. Yeah, tried that. It's interesting. It's not a complete thing. It's got potential.
It's a
Looks
good
nice.
little.
It's a
But
tech
you can
demo,
see
isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
a tech demo, yeah. But you can see what they did with like the AI traffic and the AI characters and stuff in there. And they said that was pretty much very minimum resources to make that. Like it was just kind of skinned in the Matrix to give it that appeal. But stuff like that's
I
easy
have
for them
seen
to make.
videos
now.
online. I have seen videos online where people have used AI technology to put render real textures of Los Angeles and actually put them into that, and it makes it. And also people who actually redone all the traffic system and everything else to make it more realistic. This is all stuff that can be integrated into GTA 6 to give that level of believability to the world. And I suppose that kind of comes back around to what you were saying, Phil, when maybe you're talking about realism. We're not talking about photorealism. We're not really talking about looking and people looking like they're real people. What we're talking about is a world that feels lived in, that feels like you don't walk up to a building and 6 of all the doors are just they're obviously just sprites and you can't go in. It's like it's just a texture.
Well, you know what?
Everything is accessible and everything adds to the believability, the depth of the place that you inhabit. And for me, that is what I want to see, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're working on.
You know what the trick? You know what they always used to say. The trick to it was with those big open world games is to figure out whether you could go through a door or not. Was whether it had a door handle.
Yeah.
Every door should have a door handle. Rockstar. That's it. You got to trick me. Even if I can't go through it, it better have a door handle.
Oh, mate,
I look forward to the hype because they're also they're absolute masters at the hype. They release little snippets and then they start releasing little videos and a lot of other companies have taken that on board these days. Techland was
They
one
were the
that
first
did
ones that started the trailer where you would have in GTA Online, this is what you can do with this, and then it was almost like an infomercial, but it worked so well. They were just the best trailers to watch because it just had really great chunks of gameplay, really explaining what you were doing in these different scenes, rather than just being a vertical
what was happening
slice.
in the game.
Yeah,
It's like you didn't have to guess. Yeah, as I said, the recent run up to Dying Light 2 coming out and the way Techland, there's a lot of similarity. One company that's taken on board that same way of slowly giving you more and more content and making you excited about a game because you can actually see it in front of you.
Rockstar are trailblazers, and they have been for a long time now. They were the first people to release a 3D open world, really, weren't they? With GTA 3 on the PlayStation 2, which incidentally, actually, on the Xbox, that was I think they went for an exclusivity deal with Xbox, and they I think turned them away. With the initial idea from it, and then it came out, it was this massive hit. That was in that Xbox documentary. I digress. But every time they release something, there was always a trailblazer or something. I mean, you look at GTA 5, like we say, it's still relevant now. Graphically, yes, you play it on a console. It's only 30 frames per second. It's still 1080p. It's not had its jazzed up graphics and everything. I'm just talking graphically. But you play it on PC and you can play it 4K and you can play it 60 frames. That game could release now nearly. And you look at Red Dead Redemption, and actually if you hold Red Dead Redemption up against any game that's come out since then, that was 2018, I still think it's the best looking game out there. It's incredible looking, that game. And the fact that the vastness of the game world, the level of detail, all the characters and what they've done is absolutely astounding and
weather
staggering.
systems and everything. It's just they've created a very. That's why I'm optimistic for a much higher level of believability and interactivity in the world. Because when you look at Red Dead, all the sort of legwork is already there. They've gone to the trouble to put in weather systems that actually change the lighting as they go across the world. You can stand on a hill, look across, and see a storm brewing, and that storm ends up coming to it. It's astonishing what they've done.
Yeah, there's a scene in what's the program with Sheldon. I completely forgot the name of it.
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang
Or Young
Theory. There we
Sheldon.
go. It completely slipped out of my mind. There's an episode where he he's walking through Red Dead Redemption, and Leonard comes through and says, "Why aren't you getting a horse?" He goes, I just wanted to go for a walk and clear my head," which is quite funny. But actually, the amount of times that sometimes I was going, "I'm just going to turn Red Dead on," and I don't actually do anything. I just jump on my horse, I just go for a ride off into the hills and just explore, and then maybe hunt some animals or something, and just see something. Go, I've never seen that building before.
You just try and live in the world a little bit, don't you?
It's just incredible to look at. It's like travelling through a piece of art. It's staggeringly good.
Tell you what, you take an open world game like that, and then we talked briefly about Rockstar, for example, banning the modders that did that. But if you ever look at some of those GTA 5 like ultimate modded versions, the reflections, the lighting, like they look like a game that should be releasing today. And if modders can do that without studio backup, these are people effectively at home just implementing existing systems properly. Yeah. Imagine what Rockstar can do with their power.
Definitely a big
How amazing that can
be. The money,
the money.
The
money. That's what I meant.
The next point that Alan actually touched briefly on it was actually to talk about setting. So I know Alan's now sort of kind of mentioned that he'd quite like again to see all of those cities amalgamated into one and have like a whole kind of region. For you, Phil, is there anything that where would you like to see it set? Is it still going to be in America? Would you prefer to see it abroad somewhere? Or
so, I was thinking about this, and I like the idea of them just rolling all the kind of cities into one because they've already set that. I'd also like to see, arguably, I think a new setting. I'd love to see their take on like continental Europe. Like maybe there's a city in France, and then there's a city in Germany, and then there's a city in Spain, or you go to their version of Rome, for example, and all the kind of liberties they take with ripping the mick out of those places, essentially.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see it almost more of a sort of jet set continental experience. So rather than it just being, like you said, set in the US, you see different parts of the world and different cultures. Because if anybody's going to nail that, it's going to be Rockstar.
Yeah.
And you can fly between these different cities. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Part of me wonder whether they could, because obviously we've talked about it, Red Dead was realistic and GTA 5 is realistic, but they've said, it's really difficult to do that satire world because the world is almost becoming satire like that. Part of me wonder whether they just go absolutely mental and they just take on CD Projekt Red and do their own version of Cyberpunk in GTA or something mental like that, and just go completely off the charts and be like, it's San Andreas, but it's in 2049, and flying cars and all of their ridiculous GTA sort of take on, like, they take stuff from Blade Runner and take stuff from Cyberpunk and all the things that kind of people love, and then they put their GTA Rockstar spin on it, and
that would be incredible. Yeah.
It's
never going to happen, but that'd be awesome.
I was actually sitting here going, I couldn't disagree with like what you're saying more, because I think fundamentally the ethos and the sense that GTA has run with for absolutely pretty much since it began, other than like the London thing, has been in this faux America with these with all this satire and everything else, and I don't think a lot of that transposes to somewhere like Europe. And there has been a lot of like rumours over the years, and people have been saying, "Oh, we need it to be in like Japan or in China or something like that, so we can have a kung fu because there are games that have been based there and stuff like that." And
Sleeping Dogs is a really good example.
Exactly, fantastic game. And I was thinking, but for me, GTA, it's that satire, the American dream, and the over excess, and that's it's just I just love that, and that's what attracts me to GTA. And then you started going on about Rockstar's interpretation of Cyberpunk, and I'm just like, I want that. That is what I want, because Rockstar would knock it out of the park, and it would be the game that we wanted for Cyberpunk to be, and
sci-fi GTA,
phenomenal.
Because most importantly, it'd end up being third person if you wanted it to be, and that knocks me.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we talked a bit about Eurojank earlier as well, and Cyberpunk 2077. One of the biggest. I mean, the world was stunning what they created there. It looked amazing, but in terms of the believability and how the world felt alive, they did not have those core systems in place. And GTA 4 got it better than they did in 2077. And that's not knocking them. Imagine it's incredibly difficult to do. But Rockstar have spent decades building those systems up and getting it right. They've been making that game for so long, and they've absolutely nailed it. And it just goes to show how amazing Rockstar are, I think, definitely. I think, I totally get what you were saying, Alan, and just to bounce off from Phil's point, saying it being, maybe in continental Europe and stuff like that, I think the key fact is it's the gun laws everywhere. You know, you go throughout Europe. I mean, apart from maybe sort of Russia's and places like that, maybe it's a bit more free form there. But most other places have very strict gun laws where that's part of what it is in America. It's just rife with gun crime, which kind of makes it perfectly suited for stuff like that. But what I would
gangs in the streets, I mean, it's
I would quite like to see there kind of almost having the option. So they did a little bit in one of the GTA Online missions. I played it briefly, where you left Los Santos and you flew to a private island that was run by some kind of drug cartel baron, and he was having a party there, and you had to do a heist on this separate island. It's the first time they've kind of done a separate, different map. I would quite like them to implement stuff like that. So maybe you have a Vice City or a Los Santos or whatever it is as your kind of main hub area, but then actually maybe you start to do things more internationally. So you might have a mission that takes you to Tokyo or something like that, and you do a heist in Tokyo, and you do a heist in London, and you do a heist in Sydney or Cape Town or Rome or wherever it might be. All across the globe you've got these kind of levels that you can go in and do there, and then you come back to the main area, kind of taking things from that city back to you. Do you know what I mean? Something like that.
But if it was Rockstar as well, to make that work, they'd create that city almost, wouldn't they? Purely just off the basis. And that's the thing I love about Rockstar. They wouldn't go half-assed with a kind of, it's just a mission and we just do enough of that. If you were going to Tokyo, they'd create like 10 city blocks of Tokyo for that heist to happen within or something.
Yeah. Maybe it's a case of as well, when you go to these other cities, that actually it's really hard to get hold of a gun. So everything's just melee, for example. Just as I don't know.
Kung
Fu. Not necessarily just
amazing.
that, but but whatever. There's
like
there's so
hand
much
to hand
you
with a
can do.
baton and stuff like that.
But I think
taking people down.
I think whatever Rockstar are going to do, in Rockstar we trust. It's going to be great.
whatever it's going to be, we're going to be sitting there going,
I've just had an
amazing.
amazing thought actually.
Go on then.
What about if you're a secret agent? What about if they did their take on James Bond with
Cool. That'd be pretty cool.
I'm going to let that settle with you boys because I think there is so much scope in
It's
that.
called Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft
And I
Auto
do
Spy.
I do.
You're right,
know
because James
sometimes
Bond never
spies-
steals a car.
Sometimes spies have to improvise, but generally James Bond gets given his Jaguars and stuff. But you might have to steal a few cars. But I can't help feeling it's not.
Come on,
really
he
the
steals
ethos.
something in every James Bond movie. If he's
And he
riding
often-
a bike across buildings,
Io.
or...
I think that's in very good hands with Io, who are making
Yeah.
the James
that
Bond
is
movie.
true. Actually, that is very
think
true.
so. I think so. Yeah, cool. All right, no worries. Last final thought on that one. What about GTA, but space? So you've got different planets you go to.
Space
We're
Top
talking
Gun!
sci-fi.
Space Top
Not
Gun!
Space
Oh,
Top
you've
Gun.
set it off again.
It's okay. I got Space Top Gun out of Boba Fett.
You just
so it's
have to
fine.
ruin it, don't you, Phil? You just have to ruin it.
Come on, it's Rockstar. You're going to fly between the planets. Space Top Gun.
Oh, good stuff. Right. Cool. Well, that was a good little thing to chat about. Nice to sort of speculate on what we might see in the future. Now, the final thing is that me, Alan, Ratley, and Lee played a little game last week that we had quite fun with, didn't we, Alan? Would you like to partake in another little couple of rounds of the game? Did you hear the game, Phil? I can explain the rules if you didn't.
I would appreciate you re-explaining the rules because I sort of
So very
tuned in and
simply-
out of the pod last week.
Yeah, so very simply, one person starts off and they say the name of a movie, the next person says the name of an actor that was in that movie, and then the next person after that has to say a movie that actor was in, but obviously can't be the same one. Yeah?
I expect this will go terribly as I always forget the actors in my movies.
Is it? Yeah.
So I won't. Don't expect this game to last long. Is all I'm saying. Okay, I'm setting the bar very low right now.
Okay, cool. Right. Do you want to start, Alan?
Oh, all right then. How about Dune?
I can't remember any of the actors in Dune.
You
Wait,
literally
no.
just watched it.
No. Hang on a sec. There was the girl Zenda.
Zendaya, yeah?
Zendaya.
Yeah.
There we go. She had one
Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Tom Holland.
Well, I guess I can go with any Marvel movie, I suppose. Civil War, Captain America.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr.
Iron Man.
Go on,
I was bad at this. I don't remember actors' names. I just forget. I can't remember the name of the person.
It's-
How does it mind blank?
That's a no go. That's a fail for Phil.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
you could have gone for Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, he's
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
in the titles, but he is.
Yeah,
in
Scarlett
it.
Johansson, Jeff
Scarlett,
Bridges.
yeah.
Just told you. Well,
great.
terrible at this stuff.
Should we try it one more time,
Gwyneth
Phil, and then we'll
Paltrow.
if you're not.
I'd rather not. I feel like I'm going to have a brain
You're not
aneurysm
right.
if
That's
you do
fine.
this to me
If you're not
again.
having fun, we won't do it. That's
I'm
fine.
terrible with actors.
Well, that was a massive failed experiment.
Yeah, I'm just bad at this stuff.
Well, we had fun last week. It was good fun. Yeah. So look,
Yeah, Phil, we had fun without you. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
well,
All
I reckon
viewers,
that's.
I apologise for my
I reckon
lack
that's about time to wrap it up. Then I reckon. So that's a bye from me, and from Mr. Allen, that's also a bye.
That's a goodbye from me,
Yes, and a goodbye from Mr. Speed Freak Phil.
who doesn't know any movies.
So long,
apparently.
farewell. No,
See you later,
who doesn't pay attention to actors.
Bye-bye.
Bye.